Hello, everybody. You already know what time it is. Coming to you live from Lake Tahoe, California. Super excited to be here, but I don't miss podcasts. So whether it's business or pleasure, this comes first. Super excited about this week's episode. This is Dreadful Talk, episode 18. And before I get any further, this episode is brought to you by Zach Brown. Zach Brown can help you with real estate, life insurance, property insurance, anywhere in the Oklahoma, Texas region. Zach Brown, you can reach him at 405-255-7867. 405-255-7867. This episode is brought to you by Zach Brown. Said man of many talents, good man to know. He can help you with your real estate, your life insurance, and your property insurance. So, he's a real good dude to work with, real nice guy. He'll get you taken care of. So go ahead and hit up Zach Brown at 405-255-7867 for your real estate, life insurance, and property insurance needs. And so to this week's episode, I'm going to have a good friend of mine on. Let's get him on. I'll introduce him on there. Let's go ahead and get him on. My guy. Hello. So yes, this week's guest is none other than my good friend Connor Klein, and one of my favorite dudes right here. And I said we'll get more. This week's episode is special, man, because I didn't have my buddy Connor on to talk about what he does for a living or anything like that. He's not here to sell you anything or to promote anything. We're here to promote dialogue and respectful conversation and unity, and that's what we're here to do today. I usually I have episodes titled in some concise manner of what this episode's about, but this episode's a little more nuanced than usual, and I'm super excited to have my brother Connor on here. Welcome to Dreadful Talk, bro.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here. I think this is a good conversation for people to hear, especially just in today's climate and whatnot.
Yes.
I mean, you wouldn't think, us paired together would be really good friends or anything like that. And just from social media and everything else, it's a wild time. So I'm glad we can get on here and show people how to discuss and be friends with people, even though you have a different set of views.
Yeah, without a doubt, and it's crazy because I actually on my last episode I did was about like the racial climate of the United States at the moment, and I was kind of aggressive on that podcast. Like I stand by what I said, but because I said some things like you're not supposed to be kind to your enemy and things like that, but that's where I think people need to draw the line of not everybody you have a disagreement with is your enemy. There are real enemies out there, and and actions can be taken, as determined appropriately there. But what I think everybody skips steps 2, 3, and 4 and goes all the way to 10.
Yeah,
Nowadays,
exactly.
you know what I mean? Like yeah.
And if you put somebody's back against the wall, their first instinct is going to be, I'm being attacked, so shit, I'm coming back at you. So I mean, if you take the time to see where somebody's coming from and understand what they're doing, and it's that's actually, if you want to hop into it, something I wanted to talk about was just it's hard expressing your political views because you used to be able to be Democrat, Republican, liberal, libertarian, whatever, and that's just kind of what it was. Now it's on both sides of this deal. You get thrown. I don't even like saying I'm Republican because I really don't vibe with most of the stuff that's going on, really. And
no, I feel you. I describe myself like the left version of that. It's like I lean left, but I'm not out here like going hard for the Clintons and Biden. You know what
exactly.
I'm saying? Like
Right.
So we align a lot in that regards. But there's this like idolatry, like how you're talking about how it's gotten ramped up a level. Like exactly like it used to just be politics, but now it's like this is my whole identity. Like this is who I am. Like this is like I said, it's almost like on a religious type tip. It's like Oh shit, you there, brother?
There
All
we
right,
go.
cool. Yeah, there we go. It's all good,
But
man.
yeah, and it's hard for people, especially when they disagree. Getting called a libtard or just like racist out the gate, and it's like,
Yeah.
first of all, you really need to be able to prove somebody's racist before just like calling somebody racist. In my opinion, that like you
Yeah.
can't just be coming out the gate like that.
No, that's a
So
bold claim that I do feel like gets thrown around, way too easily
right,
nowadays. As do on the other side the terms, snowflake and libtard.
right, yeah,
Exactly,
exactly.
exactly. Like we just jump to these like elementary school name calling tactics. Um, but yeah, man, I totally agree, and it's so funny, man, because I used to think that me and you had so much in different, like I thought we were very different for a lot of time. We've always been friends, always loved you, but I just always thought we
Right.
were so different. And we grew up on, as they say, different sides of the tracks. There's different
Yeah.
lifestyles, or different beliefs, raised a different way, and
Hmm.
had different life experiences to shape our beliefs.
Right.
And then it's so funny though, because we're both from Norman, Oklahoma, but just like different parts of town, and like and I used to think that was so different. And I think people do this. We think we're so different from people. And then I get out here, a couple thousand miles away out in California, and I
Uh
realize I have more in common with you than I
huh.
do half the
Right.
people I'm around. And we just hype up these little differences between each other when the
Yeah.
whole time we are a whole lot closer together than we may think, just
Right.
because of like preconceived notions. But yeah, man, like I went from being essentially one of the most left-wing dudes in Norman to I moved out here to the Bay Area, and people might as well think I'm like fascist McGee because I like guns and even
Yeah, I can
losing
only
football and
imagine.
shit. So yeah, you know what I mean? It's crazy, just like the spectrum and the perspective of like you can think you have so much just not in common with somebody, but
Yeah.
if you get in a different room of people, you'll realize, oh shit, me and old
Yeah.
dude, we're a lot closer than I am with these weirdos. So
Yeah. Which reminds me kind of one of my favorite movies, and one of my favorite scenes actually from the movie is on Remember the Titans,
oh
when
yeah, brother.
yeah, when Denzel Washington's got all the guys in there in the locker room, and they are not in the locker room but in the gym, and it's the first time, and it's all black guys, and I can't remember the big fat white dude. He runs in there, and they're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what's going on? He's like, hey, somebody said we're playing football, so here I am, and it's just not. That's how I've kind of always seen it. It's not been a thing for me anyways, as that, I just see
Yeah.
people for who they are. And
But what I like about you, bro, is you just said the words it's not been a thing for me, but you don't take it a step further in saying like because I've never experienced it that it doesn't exist.
oh,
Like so many
because it
people,
definitely does.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's what I love about, and that's why I can have these conversations with you because, so many people think that's like, oh, because it doesn't happen to me, it's a myth or it's a hoax or it's the
Right.
media or it's overhyped. It's like, we all have different experiences. And yeah, I just love your ability to separate, what you've experienced with also acknowledging other people's experiences at the same
Oh
time. I
yeah,
think that could
exactly.
be an important step to like help people have these conversations and bridge that gap is maybe
Right.
people understanding that part of it. Um, and yeah,
Yeah,
man,
just being
I
able to
also,
see where people are coming from. I mean, just like you see where I'm from, I see where you're from, and it's just different experiences all the way around. Like you said, you can
yeah,
be from the same place and have completely different things, but
yeah. And I think
you
it's
got to
like
be
that
able
in
to
most
separate
places.
that.
Like that's not a unique to Oklahoma thing. Like that's in almost every major city, almost everywhere you go, there's the same place will have different experiences, within the same physical location. It's
Right.
pretty wild. But and then also like one of the another great reason I wanted to have you on here, man, is because like I'm a firm believer that one of the biggest like problems facing us, I guess, societally and politically, is like the echo chamber culture of
Hmm.
like people only conversate with people they agree with, and they only follow stuff
Right.
they agree with, and they only watch the news channels that they agree with. And then so you just this echo chamber makes you believe that you're like this infallible like genius
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it,
And
it, it
it's not
but
it's not the case. I mean, honestly, I watch if I'm going to watch the news, which I hardly do, when I'm really busy, and two, it's so hard to watch one side lean so far, and it's like I don't even know how these news people can feel good about themselves, because you're either
how they say it with a straight face.
Yeah,
like, I don't understand how they say it with a straight face. Like, they really are acting at that point. Like,
it's unbelievable what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, you turn on Fox, you turn on CNN, and I know exactly what I'm going to hear when I put on either one of those things. I mean, it's just going to be, like you said, the echo chamber deal. And if you just sit there and watch that, then you're like, yeah, that's, whatever. And that's what I texted you about last night, was just, if you can't see what's wrong with your side of the deal, then you're not going to see where somebody else is coming from. Because obviously I can watch Fox News and be like, dude, these fools are fucking tripping right now. Like, what are you going on about? And so
man. It's like the whole thing of, like, don't worry about somebody else's yard if your yard ain't on point. You know what I mean? You can't have weeds in your shit and be complaining about your neighbor's edging. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I feel like, exactly, because I feel like if both parties focused more on their own party and, like, actually being about what they said they were about, and actually, both parties focus on helping people. You know what I mean?
That's what it should be about at the end of the day. I mean, there's nothing ever getting done if you really think about it. I mean, it's just standstills most of the time, and that's not like they're there to help us at the end of the day. That's what's going on.
Exactly. And like, political parties are in place to have, like, different means to the same end, and that end is helping the United States citizens.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to disagree on how to go about it, but at the end of the day, you agree that the main objective is still to help people. But I feel like we're so far gone from that.
Yeah, the debate. I mean, goodness gracious. I watched two grown men sit there and bicker like children over a toy or something. I mean, and it was just embarrassing to watch.
Like, it's to the point now, bro, where, like, you can't even parody that. Like, a long United States tradition is, like, political parody, Saturday Night Live, South Park. Like, that, it's so far, like, parodying itself. It's such a joke. Like, how do you even, like, how do you even make that, like, funnier than it already is? Like, how do you even exaggerate that? It's so exaggerated.
I watched the new SNL that came out last Saturday.
Like Jim Carrey
did it, and I'm like, you know what? I mean, this is funny, but I found the debate even more funny. Like,
exactly, you can't, like, bro. It's like you can't, like, clown something that's already a clown show. But
and if you ask me, I mean, either side of who you want to win, Trump, Biden, if you watch that and can't say, like, oh, my guy that I want to win just looked like a complete fool, then you weren't watching the same thing I was watching.
Yeah, like, bro, like, I just refuse to believe this is, like, the best we have to offer. Like, on either side, like, there has to be some really smart, young, fit, ambitious Republican out there that, has black friends and gay friends, and he's a good dude. He just, has seen certain, policies that lean right, and he's out to help people, but, maybe he doesn't want more taxes. Maybe he wants a smaller government. Maybe he's for Second Amendment. You know what I mean? But he's a good dude, and he's trying to help people. And I know that person exists. Like they don't want you to think that person exists. It's just they want you to think that every Republican's some hillbilly, or some rich white dude on a golf course. But like that's not the case. And then like every Democrat's not some like purple-haired, like non-binary vegetarian. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Like this cartoonish kind of portrayal of the other side kind of like stops things before they get started, because the people on the right are like, why am I trying to talk to the purple-haired vegetarian? And then the people on the left are like, why am I trying to talk to the hillbilly? When in reality, you guys both probably work at the same goddamn place. Like, you guys probably, your kids are probably on the same baseball team. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like you're not that far apart as it makes it seem.
And I almost want to segue into the news to an extent as pushing that propaganda to make us believe that that's what's always going on, and that people, I guarantee you, we're not the only people who sit down and can have conversations like this, but they don't, ratings are better when people are screaming at each other or, doing whatever's going on.
And that's what's interesting to me, bro, because that's what everybody says, right? Everybody says, oh, clickbait, they make money. And obviously they do make money, but you
Mm-hmm.
gotta wonder with the rise of things like podcasts, for example, and like Joe Rogan probably gets more views than CNN or Fox News
Right.
and shit like that. Like you gotta wonder, like I think people are starting to smell the roses. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
their bullshit meter. Like if you watch that shit, like I don't know, I love using the term bullshit meter. It's like the most
Yeah.
helpful thing in life. It'll save you money.
Right.
It'll save you all types of shit. But
Right.
if you got a good bullshit meter, you can avoid the bullshit. And like if you
Yeah,
can watch
exactly.
that Fox News or CNN or if you can watch
Right.
any of these overproduced like scripted ass news shows and your bullshit meter isn't just off the charts, then
Yeah,
it's like
exactly. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. You got to be able to watch that and be like, "Yo, this is ridiculous what these guys got going on here."
yeah, and I think though, and I think that people are starting like that used to be like a conspiracy theory to say like essentially fake news or but
Right.
over the years it's been proven so true that I feel like that's not even like an extreme like belief to hold anymore. And like I said, I feel
No.
like people are starting to lean more to maybe like podcasts, which that can be a bad thing too, because like podcasts aren't like, source checked, but like with the shit that's on the news, essentially neither is
Yeah,
that.
I
So it's
mean,
like,
yeah, it's not. You're going off of Fox or you're going off CNN. Like this is my fact checked. Essentially, I'm trusting that these guys are giving me the correct information.
when it's like, man, I'd rather just be like somebody be straight with me. Like if they're
Right.
misinformed and they believe they're like being straight with me, I still think that's probably like less deviant than somebody who's like intentionally like trying to manipulate people. Like the
Right.
people like that know the truth. Like if somebody's just confused and is on the internet talking about like some shit they really believe to be true and somebody chooses to listen to it, like I don't think like that's necessarily the worst thing in the world, and like
Uh-huh.
and that kind of leads into how a lot of like these social media companies are like censoring people
Right.
and shit like that, and I think that's real out of line, and I
Yeah.
think
That I
that we
mean,
should be able to get on here and say whatever we want,
yeah,
and it
you're kind of hitting that First Amendment right there. I mean, and
totally. No,
nobody
and I
wants
also
that.
agree. I also agree that the First Amendment gives you freedom of speech, but not freedom of consequence from that speech. And I don't mean
Right.
consequence as far as legal consequence, but as far as like the whole cancel culture thing. Like if you say some fucked up shit and people want to stop watching your movies, like that's
Yeah.
what comes with the First
Right.
Amendment.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
But it's not. I don't think it's up for like companies to
But
like
no,
make
to
those decisions for us.
and I think we should have that. I mean, I think cancel culture can get out of hand to an extent.
Yeah.
Obviously, things can be taken out of hand or whatever. But you know, point them out. If somebody's secretly screaming I hate black people, and then they get caught up saying that shit. Put them
Yeah,
on blast.
yeah, you got
Like
to, you got
cancel
to,
that.
you got to sleep in the bed. You got to lie in the bed your
Yeah,
way.
exactly.
So
I mean, I'm all for exposing
yeah,
people, of
yeah,
that.
exactly. And does it get taken too far? And does shit get taken out of context? And yeah, I
Right.
hate that shit. But in its purest form, cancel culture is like kind of true democracy, right? Like if
Right.
enough people stop buying a product, or like what I'm saying, like that, like that's. But I just hate when it's fake or when it gets twisted or manipulated. But
Yeah.
like in its purest form, like that's boycotting, that's using your voice, that's letting your dollar be
Right.
heard. So I mean, I support that. But yeah, exactly. Like, let the people let the people decide that shit, man, for sure. And but yeah, man, like I just like I said, I wanted to have you on here because I know we love and respect each other, and I wanted to show
Right.
people like this is more common than the extremes. Like
Yeah,
like
exactly.
like like we may be on different sides of the aisle barely. You know what I'm saying? Like neither
Yeah.
one of us are really polarized, and I
Right.
think that's part of the problem too, is just the polarization. Because I think the reason we are able to talk is because it's like I haven't drinking the left wing Kool-Aid and you haven't drinking the right wing Kool-Aid. I just
Right.
like is there a way to quote unquote like undrink the Kool-Aid? Like these people like legitimately seem brainwashed on both sides. Like is there a
Yeah.
way to wake people up?
I've thought about this, and I think it's going to take time to, trying to pick this right. It's going to take time to get past it for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a way to dial it back. What's the hardest part, I think, for people is they've committed to this. They've committed to it.
Yes.
And it is hard for people to admit that they've wronged or done wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, bro.
And with that is, we need to be able, me and you, people like us, we need to be able to accept those people who realize that they've gone too far and bring them back in the fold and be like, I understand, this happened, but we got to be able to forgive.
There is no healing without forgiveness.
Right.
And there is no forgiveness without like being humble and apologizing and checking yourself.
Yeah.
And it's this intertwined thing where it's the definition of it takes two to tango. Like the people on the extremes need to admit, you know what I'm saying? They got a little carried away. We all do. You know what I'm saying? We've all gotten carried away. I know I have.
Right.
It's well documented that I have. And so we've all gotten carried away. But you know what I'm saying? Like, and one of my favorite sayings on this earth, and it's a thing I live my life by, is a wise man knows what he doesn't know.
Right.
And some assholes probably like, that's sexist. What about women? You know what I mean? Don't be stupid, y'all. But you know what I mean? A wise man knows what he doesn't know. And I feel like more people need to embrace that. Like,
exactly.
Everybody's just been in these echo chambers, to bring it full circle. Everybody's been in these echo chambers, and everybody's convinced that they're, you know what I'm saying, God's gift of political acumen and fucking that there's no way they could be wrong. Everybody's a know-it-all. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's a fucking genius. Everybody's a fucking pundit. You know what I mean? And in reality, we're just like regurgitating propaganda.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And it's not accomplishing anything except making you feel more justified in whatever you think is right. But I mean, like I said, I think it's going to take people to understand that they've gone too far and accept that, and it's up to us to be able to forgive them for, and I'm not saying we're some white knights here by any means,
no,
we're all glory, but
the ability to be open-minded, maybe give somebody a second chance, maybe have a conversation, just, don't shut the door completely. You know what I mean? I feel you, and I can be better at that myself. You talking about not being a white knight, like exactly, like everything we say here on this podcast, we're including ourselves in. Like we're not speaking from no soapbox, like talking down on nobody. These are all things that every single one of us could get better at. And, and that's what it's gonna take. Like I think that's another thing that I think just this is the perfect segue, is that so many of us think that like we're infallible, and it's kind of touching on the same thing we've been touching on, but just this inability to admit our mistakes, or even if it's not a mistake, just be malleable, be open-minded.
Right.
I
think those are going to be the first steps to healing and whatnot, and it's going to take everybody, and it's almost like there's something, which obviously I don't want anything bad to ever happen, but something to bring everybody together, if you will. It's
I in March and April, I thought it was going to be Corona.
Mm-hmm. But and they politicized it.
They politicized it, yes. And that's how, like, if you don't see this as intentional, like if you don't see that there's a puppet master fucking splitting the fucking shit, I don't like. Because that, like, do you remember, like, the first 2-3 weeks? And I know I'm out here in Cali, and maybe your experience was different. But, like, them first 2-3 weeks in, like, late March, early April, when that shit was first getting bad, nobody knew how bad it was going to get. And like, people, it was almost like some post 9/11 shit. Like, people, like, really was looking out for your neighbor. Like, oh, I got an extra pair of gloves. Do you need it? Like, oh, you need some
toilet paper, like whatever.
Exactly. Like the neighborly vibe was a real thing. Like I said, I don't know if it was like that everywhere, but I experienced that out here for sure. And then, like I said,
it's how that was out there. I didn't know if it was every man for themselves. And I mean, you're from Oklahoma, and like I said, your experience could be different from mine, or more than likely is. But it's always been kind of, I don't know, Southern hospitality in a way for me around here. I mean, everybody's kind of always there to help out, or
Yeah,
and at least that's my philosophy.
Yeah, out here it is a little more every man for himself, but in a weird way. Like in a person to person interaction way. Like you won't get as many smiles or waves, but at the
Right.
same time, like big picture wise, like how people live their life is more considerate. They
Yeah.
drive better economic cars. They produce less garbage. They recycle more. There's a lot of things that we do here that like make it easier for the big picture, but like the person to person interaction isn't as like warm as in the South.
Well,
But I feel like in the South, people will be friendly to your face, but then like do a bunch of shit that's like not good for the whole.
right. Well, see, and then also kind of on that note, which is something I've always just kind of noticed is, you say recycle and whatnot, and on the coast like that in bigger population areas, there's obviously more pollution, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm almost wondering, like, does doing that stuff almost offset like the more people there? Because when I'm out here and I work on the road a lot and I'm out in rural areas and whatnot, it's always pretty country. Everybody's always picking up. It's not like we're just out here trashing. Everybody's just like, they drive big trucks and they're just fucking
it totally balances out.
But yeah, so I just
that's a good point, bro, and you're right. Like it is kind of hypocritical in a way to kind of toot your own horn for being so environmental whenever the whole reason there's so many people here that it's bad for the environment.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I've always said. Like, New York and those bigger cities and stuff like that. They're going to be dirtier and whatnot. I'll walk across people. So I work for a different company. I'm not going to say any companies or anything, but
that's fine.
We survey pipeline, and so we have to walk on other people's land all the time, and the regulations that we have to follow, because we're contractors via these companies, I mean, it's so strict, man. I can't drive on people's property, land. If we see trash, we always pick it up.
That's awesome, man.
I mean, it's not like we're out there just.
And people need to hear this. Like, people need to hear this. Like, I'm sure I have a lot of listeners out here in California who may think that, people in the Midwest or people maybe in the oil business or whatever just don't give a shit about the environment. And it's good to, like I said, it's good to just put a face to it and hear look, yes, the fuck we do. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people kind of just depicting y'all a certain way. I feel you.
And I've worked the oil field my whole life, as you know. That's where my family's from and whatnot. And it's not a joke out there. I've been on rigs and where a truck would just be leaking oil. I'm talking like in the middle of nowhere, nobody's ever around, and it's just like on a gravel pit or gravel parking lot. And they would move the truck, dig up all the oil, replace it. I mean, they take things very seriously out there, and it's, everybody always dogs OSHA, from where we're at.
Oh yeah,
everybody wants to follow their bullshit, but
it serves a purpose, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and they have people out there checking that stuff, so it's not as Wild West, I think, as some people might perceive it. We people really do, and people love their land out here, as you know. I mean,
they do, yeah.
And they're not out here just trashing it just to trash it. I mean, it's pretty out here. I mean, if you ever seen some wide open spaces, it's beautiful. And
totally, man.
Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to just wreck it.
Oh yeah, so I feel that for sure.
I think it's a misconception, honestly, and just from what I know, everybody's just like, oh, those Midwest guys rolling their big trucks, and they don't care about nothing, but in reality, they do. I mean,
no, I feel it, and then like I know everybody that hunts is like super big into conservation and just taking care of the natural resources, and that's another big misconception. I'm a big fan of like Steven Ranella's show, like Meat Eater, and like I love how he just shows that side of it, that like it's not just a bunch of rednecks shooting holes and everything. It's
exactly. And I think what people also don't understand is Garrett, not to call him out or anything, I'm not going like saying anything bad, but he's a big hunter, you know him. That he gets all the proper licensing to go do that. He gets his hunting license. You got to get tags for these deers, stuff like that, and that money goes back into the upkeep of that land.
Yeah,
And,
totally.
the game wardens who are out there to, make sure everybody's doing everything right. I mean, it's not like you can just go out and start hunting stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
things
yeah.
got to be in season. You got to do it right. And then that money goes back into upkeep of this public land and stuff like that. So, I mean,
It's a great system. It's a self-sustaining system. You know what I'm saying? It's a
right.
cycle. It's a big circle, and
Exactly.
I think that's what like the way we need to like look at like government and programs and is like a cycle, like a you know what I'm saying, something's invested into it. There's like an ROI, and then it becomes like kind
Right.
of self-funding
Exactly.
eventually. And I feel like just like if we had an efficient government, they could set up other things kind of in that same mold. That
You
would
know,
kind of just be more sustainable.
and I think that's where, you get more of the Republican side from the Midwest and whatnot is because of programs and situations like that. These guys, we take care, like, and I'm not saying this is the main thing, but it's like there's a system that works, and we're like, okay, so we buy the proper stuff, we do the proper things, we get to go out, we get to hunt. That money goes back into the upkeep of the land, and it works. And so they kind of think, well, we can do it. We don't need some big government in here
Yeah.
saying this is how it
Yeah.
needs to be done when we're running something that we think is working
Yeah, that
properly.
and that's something that just blew my mind when I first moved to Cali, bro. Like, you want to talk about big government, like, because for everybody watching, a lot of you are familiar with my story. Some of you may not be. I moved from Oklahoma to the Bay Area of California in 2016, and one of the biggest things that shocked me was just the number of rules. Like, there's rules for like, bro, there you
Yeah.
step out your door and there's rules. And a lot of them are like big picture or good idea in mind, but
Right.
there's just so many rules, like
Yeah,
point blank
exactly.
period, like right, wrong, or indifferent. There's so many rules, bro. So many taxes. Like, bro, you go grocery shopping, right? And
Right.
you get charged for your bags, or
Yeah,
you have to bring
exactly.
your own, or like there's certain the gas pumps out here. First off, there's only ethanol gas, which that shocked me. When I first moved out here, I kept arguing with the goddamn like gas station clerks because I always was taught not to put ethanol in my truck. It's
Right.
bad for
Yeah.
your
No. Yeah.
car. And I'd be like, where's the non-ethanol? And they would look at me stupid, and I'd look at them stupid, and I'd be like, what the fuck?
I
But
need
so,
the
so
good
that,
stuff, man.
yeah. So there's that. There's like you have to hold your gas pump at like a certain angle, or else it'll like cut off. It's like
Really.
just so, and like I said, a lot of that has good like big picture kind of
Hmm.
reasons behind it, but just the amount of rules is just astronomical. Like
Right.
the amount of rules.
And I think you see, like me personally, like I don't want that. Like I'm not a
Yeah,
child. Like, and I think that's where you
I
get a lot of Republican, not wanting big government deal.
yes.
It's like we can do it ourselves. We don't need y'all to hit us with all this bullshit.
And that's what keeps me from leaning super far left and calling myself a Democrat is that exact shit. Exactly. I side with, I totally like me and Republicans, like that thinking makes perfect sense to me. Like, I don't knock
Right.
that at all. You want to know, honestly, like, I guess let's just talk on this. It's kind of fun. It's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on.
Yeah.
But one of my biggest problems with with the Republican Party that probably keeps me from fucking with them more. And I mean, I have a few issues, but the main thing is just the marriage to like Protestant Christianity. Like, it's tied at the
Yeah.
hip.
See, I'm
And
not
to
big
me,
on
that
that.
goes against everything the Constitution was set up for. The
And
church and
yeah,
state, and the
exactly.
Republican Party is married at the hip to Christianity, and I hate
Right.
it. And that's what stops a lot of people from getting behind it. I
And
think
yeah, and it should, honestly. I mean, that's a big problem.
that's a big
Uh,
problem, man. And like I think that like dead ass, if Republicans like moved away from that, they would win every election by a landslide.
I agree too. And
Because a
it's
lot of their policies and shit be making more sense. And
right.
I'll be real, but it's just like this weird like religious cult thing that people
Hmm.
like you know what I'm saying? Most
And
people
it
will
shouldn't
never
be
get
like that.
behind.
I mean, the way I view the world is pretty black and white, honestly. I mean, like we got rules, you got to follow them. I may not agree with them, but there's actually a subject I want to touch on after this. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, church and state. I mean, it needs to
Yeah.
be separated.
Yes.
There's no middle ground there at all.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just government should be government, and church should be church, and there's nothing wrong with being Christian or believing in that stuff, but
do it
you
on
need
your
to
own
be able
time
to leave it at the door. And I had one of my favorite teachers in high school, Coach Walker.
I've heard a lot of good things about him from my North
He is a really good guy. He first day of class, he's a Christian. He said, I draw the line where religion steps on science and where science steps on religion, and he's got a clear line of where that is in the sand. It's so I mean that's kind of,
because I would feel the same way if the Democrats were all trying to use Muslim ideals or Hindu ideals. Like it's not that it's Christianity. It's just that,
no, exactly.
A whole government, that's what separates us from places like Saudi Arabia, and you know what I mean, where religion is the law of the land. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, they'll throw gay people off a roof.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And we like to, think that Western society is more civilized than that, but at the same time, we're still kind of doing the same shit in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like for example, all them years in Oklahoma, liquor stores were closed on Sunday. There is zero way you can explain that without using religion. Why not Wednesday? Why not that? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If the rationale is that people need a day off, their livers need a day off, then why is it Sunday? You know what I'm saying? Because of religion.
Exactly.
And so it's just so blatant and obvious. I know. Dude, Oklahoma seems lit now, bro.
I mean, they're really. I think people are starting to, it's us. We're coming into the age of.
You're right.
We're getting to be the people, that are in charge and making decisions and whatnot. And so I think, we're gonna see a lot more changes and whatnot. And I think, by having conversations like this and people, I think me and you are not, outside the norm.
Yeah,
I think,
exactly.
I think things are going to change, going back to what we were talking about. So
I'll be real, man. It's good to hear just an optimistic point of view, man. Because I'd be struggling with that myself, wondering, is this going to go left, or you know what I'm saying? How far down this road are we going to go? You know what I'm saying? Because, history's not kind to this kind of, climate. You know what I'm saying? If you look back on, I'm a history nerd. That's always my favorite subject. That's what I read books about. I'm real big on
I love history. That was
all types of history. But if you look at just, what happens usually in these kind of political and racial kind of climates, there ain't too many happy endings. You know what I'm saying? There really ain't. And I try to balance, optimism and realism. And, sometimes those kind of come in conflict with each other, because I don't want to just be that blind hope for the sake of hope type of guy. I need an actual something back in that hope, that some proof, some logic. And sometimes I can kind of go down a pessimistic rabbit hole. And so it's refreshing to hear that perspective, brother.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Go
ahead.
No, I think it's, I just think that it's there. We are on the upswing of this deal, and it's just a weird. And I actually wanted to ask you something I wanted to ask you about, because I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to speak for every white person, but there's actually a couple things I want to touch on this. But do you think the racism is as bad as it's portrayed in the media?
I think that the whole. I'm gonna take your question and dissect it real quick. I think the whole concept of racism is not being approached with the level of nuance that is needed. I don't think that there is a target for what, or a smooth line where if you cross it, that's racist, and if you don't cross it, that's not. I think it's a spectrum. I think how autism's a spectrum. There's a lot of some people, there's a lot of people who think things are spectrums. I think that's true for almost everything. I think political spectrums, gender spectrums. I think that there's a wide range of spectrums, and I think racism falls in that. I don't think that so I think a lot of white people, I feel want to know a hard, fast like list of do's and don'ts or lines not to cross, or this is racist and this isn't racist. Like, I think it's fair to say that a lot of white people would love that, because I think a lot of white people don't want to be racist, and they maybe even do things unintentionally that they may not even like cross their mind as racist.
Right.
But so that question is, see, it's so funny. You say you see the world black and white. I see the world in all shades of gray, bro.
Right.
Like, for real, I really do. Like, I think almost there's nuance to every damn situation, and there's spectrums to every situation. So, like, do I think racism is bad as far as like just like body swinging from trees? Well, you know, up until this year, I would have said no, but there's been a lot of body swinging from trees in 2020.
Yeah.
And then even on a smaller level of just like bro, like having been mixed, but according you know the history of the one drop rule, like according to racists, if you have one drop of black blood, you're black. So I've essentially been treated as a black man my whole life, even before I knew I was black. I have an episode where I talk about that. I found out I was part black when I was 15, but this world treated me like I was black before that.
The whole time,
The whole time. And so I can like say yes, like that shit impacts you, bro. Like at different levels of society, different levels of life, how people treat you, how people talk to you. And like I said, it's not always like just outright like getting called the N-word or getting arrested or you know, getting beat up by the police. It ain't always that cut and dry. There's so many just subtle little nuance, little aspects of society and culture that just never even take into account the perspective of the black man. Like the black man's experience is never considered the American experience. Ever. Like when people think of things that are American, like when you like the whole apple pie and fucking, you know, green grasses and picket fence, like that's not like. Do you think that describes like a black person, like the average black? Like, I don't think that's like factoring that in. I think that's thinking of like 1950s suburban white. Like, I think that set the standard of what is American. Like if you're and people wonder why that conflict with the flag, or why black people may not embrace the outright patriotism as much as certain white people do, is because, like I said, they kind of just ain't taken into consideration. Like New York City is the biggest city in America. There's boroughs of New York City that are largely all black. I mean, you know, Bronx, Brooklyn. That's about as American as an experience as you could possibly get, as being a black dude living in Brooklyn. Like, that's pretty goddamn American.
Yeah.
But like, that's not like, if you just like interviewed like 100 people on the street and asked them like, is that what you consider like American? Like they'd probably say no. And so like, I just feel like that's where there's this disconnect between, I know I kind of took that further than your question originally.
No.
You know, said, but it's a hard question, because I get asked that question, man, and especially when all the George Floyd stuff happened. I had some white friends call me. I had this conversation with a lot of people, and it's just like, I just think that people aren't giving it the nuance. Like I said, I think a lot of people want like a list of do's and don'ts and lines to cross, and I understand that. I understand.
And see, that's, you know, I don't think, like I said, I can't speak for every white person, and I'm not going to, but I think a majority of people don't want to be racist. And like you said, there's things that you come across where you wouldn't think, oh, that's racist. You know, like I would, you know, not personally, but, you know, somebody may be like, oh, I didn't know that was racist. Exactly. And I think that can go back to, which was another thing I wanted to touch on, or an experience I had, but, you know, being able to say, you know, you as a black man, or, you know, whoever, be able to say, hey, that's not okay, and maybe explain to them why, instead of just jumping the gun. And I'm not saying you do this, but I mean, it happens. Jumping the gun and pointing the finger, be like, you're racist, and then that person's backed up against the wall, and you know, the
line's drawn in the sand. Exactly. The battle lines are drawn.
And then, you know, everybody sticks their guns, and they don't. Nobody wants that, but it can, you know.
But that's how that happens.
Exactly.
That's the steps of how that escalates. I totally understand what you're describing. And I'll be real, I'm the first one that needs to get better at that.
Right.
And also, you got to understand too. And I'm not, once again, you're not speaking of every white person. I'm not speaking
Right.
of every black person, but some experiences just I've been the guy jumping the gun and taking it to 10, but you never know. That person, that black dude, may have let like 9 racist things slide, and then
Right.
the
Yeah.
10th one is the straw that broke the camel's back. Even if it wasn't that same dude, maybe it was a coach earlier that day, or a cop,
Right.
or a teacher, or just whoever. Maybe they had just been letting shit slide.
Yeah.
I've gotten in that mood where just like the next motherfucker that say some shit ain't getting a pass. Like
Yeah.
I've been there, and
Right.
it's not healthy. And I'm not saying it's like the best way to go about it, but just
Right. No,
sometimes
and I
that's part of
understand
the
that. I mean, like,
equation.
I mean, I'm not going to compare me having a bad day to blatant racism, but, I mean, like you're
No,
saying,
shorter fuses on certain
yeah,
occasions.
like,
Yeah,
you're having a bad day and some shit, pops off and you're just like, fuck this, instead of like handling it calmly or whatever. But yeah, I think,
but I totally agree with you that it's more beneficial to the healing of the nation and coming together and actually fixing the actual problem and bringing people closer together. I do
right.
believe, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
But it's just so hard. Like it's the ultimate example of easier said than done, man. Like
right.
for
Of
real.
course.
Like
Yeah.
it's so difficult to, and also because it's like you don't want to jump the gun on somebody that's not racist,
Mm-hmm.
but you also don't want to like give racists a pass.
Pass. Right. Of course. Yeah.
Because I'll be real, bro. I very, very rarely ever like seen people own up to their racism, even if it's like unexplainable. Like people will just try to lawyer and argue their way around facing the
Yeah.
music. Like I've seen that scenario happen like 20 times too.
Right. And then that's
And
kind of getting to where I'm in the black and white. Like, okay, you're trying to sit here. You got a guy sitting here and they're giving you a logical explanation of why this is racist. And you're going to sit there and back this, try to defend it. And, then you're getting pretty black and white for me. Like you're leaning on the racist side.
yeah,
You're trying to justify that.
But bro, you know how many people would still claim that that's not racist because they never called me the N-word or they never, you know what I'm saying, bro?
Right. Yeah.
Like people have that definition of what like they consider racism. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really
right.
problematic, and that's what makes it so hard to like sometimes take that calm, wiser step.
Right.
Because also, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
and it's a lot to ask for. I mean, especially if you go back in the history of the black man or the black person in general. I mean, you take a lot of people like to throw out Martin Luther King, and I'm like, yeah, this man he did it peacefully for a long time, and they got shot in the head.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
I say the same thing, bro, and people
so,
say that's like extremist.
Yeah, of course. You're going to have a bad attitude about that shit. And, you got to be understanding. Like, say I said some, racist shit and, that was the 10th that straw broke the camel's back, like you said, and you jump my gun or you jump the gun and you bite my head off. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm sorry. Like, you mind explaining to me how this is or, whatever. And I think that's, being able to admit that you've done something wrong and then being able to sit there and have the dialogue with them. I think that's what's going to fix.
Exactly. And that's the theme of this whole episode. That's
right.
the theme of this whole episode. Yeah. But exactly. Like, and I'll say it too, like a lot of people do need to kind of pump the brakes on just calling every single thing racist. But it's the finest of lines, bro. And it's like human beings, not everybody deals great with nuance.
Right.
Like it's the reason why stereotypes exist. Like our brain categorizes shit as good or bad. It's like a survival mechanism going back to like the caveman days. You had to know what was a threat and what wasn't. Like there is, and people try to deny that part of our hard wiring. And I don't think that's beneficial to act like that doesn't exist. Like that's an actual physiological, like the way the brain works. Like that's a real thing. But I think to be a smart human being and be cognizant of that and be aware of that, and try to actively combat that, I think it would go a long way as well.
And the personal experience I wanted to share with you was actually Troy has a brother, transgender. I don't know if he'll care that I'm bringing this up or not, but he's open, and we actually went to Troy's bachelor party, and I sat there and talked with him for an hour, and I just, about everything, because there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah.
You're not going to know,
Yeah.
it's impossible to expect somebody to know too,
Yes. Yeah.
a pronoun or anything like that. So I was out in West Texas one day, and, this dude was gay, obviously, but I held the door open for him, and he said, thanks. And I said, yeah, no problem, sir. Something like that. I'm yes sir, no ma'am kind of guy.
Yeah.
So, but, he kind of bit my head off, and he's like, don't fucking call me sir. And I'm just like, I'm sorry. But on the same note, you got to expect, like, how am I going to know?
How are you supposed to know? Yeah.
And it's not like I was being disrespectful. I was trying to be respectful. So.
Yeah, it's not like you sat there and oh, I know what it is, but I'm going to be an asshole and make a conscious decision to go against the grain here. Like, you didn't put that much thought into it. It's just you probably said yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, 20 times.
I hold the door open for just about anybody, and if they say things, I'll say, no problem, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, whatever.
Exactly.
There's no malicious intent, and I think that's what some people need to realize, is a lot of people aren't having a lot of malicious intent behind what they're saying. They're just trying to, I don't know, almost
just get through the day. Just be a person. Man.
Most people are trying to just, like you said, get through the day.
Get through the day. Yeah, man.
Be nice. Be a polite person. Whatever. So.
Yeah, man. I couldn't agree more, man. I'm back. We're gonna keep rolling with episode 18 of Dreadful Talk. This has been a really good one. Really important one. Yeah, thanks for everybody that's still tuning in, or plan on finishing this thing out with us. I really appreciate you. Let's get my guest Connor Klein back on here. Hey, brother, we back. Yes, sir.
I appreciate you a little tease talking about all them rules. You haven't seen one of those in a long time.
It's been a minute. It's been a cool minute, man. Yeah, it's
45-round drum, right?
Yeah, it's been a minute. But I miss my old guns all the time, man. Like I
can only imagine.
Like I had to buy like a specifically Cali legal 10-round mag, because I have a Smith & Wesson 40, and it just stock came with a 14-round mag. Like that's just what it comes with.
Right.
Like it's not like an extendo or anything wild. Like that's just how the gun is made. I had to spend extra money to buy a shittier magazine.
Damn.
So I don't know. That's it. Yeah. The thing is that's whack is. Let's talk about Cali gun laws real quick. I mean, might as well, right? Kind of a natural segue, right? Because I think it's one thing that Democrats, and specifically California Democrats, get completely wrong. And I've actually been able to gain a lot of perspective on this living out here. So there's a lot of, man, this is a deep one to go down, but so California used to have some of the loosest gun laws in the nation in the 70s.
Really?
This is, because I was talking to my uncle's friends who grew up hunting in California. California used to be one of the best places to hunt in the whole world back in like the 70s and 60s. It was real popular, great outdoorsman state. Still is, just not necessarily with hunting. But everybody thinks that liberals pass these gun laws because of like gangbanging and shit and school shootings.
Right.
But that's actually like misconception. That's not how these gun laws came to be passed. The gun law, California didn't pass strict gun laws against like open carry and all that until the Black Panthers stormed the Capitol in Sacramento. All armed.
And that's a strong word. I wouldn't even say stormed, because that might even be
occupied.
They exercised their right to be there.
Did. Just like all the white folks did with the anti-mask shit, it was the same shit.
And that's one of those black and white things for me. People might think like, oh yeah, you're mad because they're black, or they're doing it because they're black. I'm like, hell no, if they're doing it the proper way, like, by all means, do it. I'm all about that.
Yeah, but that just goes to show kind of the hypocrisy behind some of like the California Democrats. Like they try to whitewash their own history.
Yeah.
Like they try to convince the world that they passed these gun laws to save you from school shooters and gangbangers,
Right.
When in
Yeah.
reality, they were pretty goddamn racist origins to those gun laws.
Yeah.
Even out here in progressive liberal Cali. So
Right.
I love telling that story on the podcast as many times as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Because that's like one of those, like, the United States has like fake history. Like that's the real
Oh,
history
yeah,
of the
for
California
sure. Yeah.
gun laws. It was because the Black Panthers. It wasn't
Yeah.
because of school shooters. It wasn't because Nancy Pelosi wanted to save you from the cartel.
Right.
It was because the Black Panthers exercised their right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
Yeah,
ran up in there,
and
but
that's why I said I didn't want to correct you or anything, but like I want people
no,
to
you're
understand,
right.
like that. I mean, that was their right to do that. It wasn't like
Verbiage matters, diction matters.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
mean, it's if you are abiding by the law, which actually, I mean, if you want to jump into this Kyle Ritten, I don't even know the fool's name or whatever.
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah,
we can. Yeah.
Wow. So
yeah, we can.
This is an interesting subject because people, brought this. I've talked about it and whatnot, and they go, well, do you think it was self-defense? And I say yes, but here's my problem. He was 17. He's not allowed to have the gun. He would not be in the situation. He shouldn't have been in the situation at all. You shouldn't be able to own the gun yet, and you shouldn't be able to walk around with the gun. And they said, well, that's legal. And I said, yeah, for an 18-year-old.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's not 18, so he can't do that.
Yeah, so my opinion, if you want to go letter of the law here, if somebody dies while you're committing another crime, that's a murder.
Right.
But like off top, like it.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying.
If you're in the middle of committing a crime, there's no such thing as self-defense. That's a law. So like people that want to have this debate, the courts already had this debate for us. If you kill somebody while you're in the middle of committing another crime, that's a murder.
Right. Like, and he broke the law. He was committing a crime by walking around with that rifle. And
so that's how I feel. Like my political views or my racial views, like aside, like just looking at how the law is supposed to handle this, or at least to my understanding, and I am fucking dumb and I'm not a lawyer, but to my understanding, if you or even somebody you're with is breaking a law while you kill somebody, I'm pretty sure it's murder off top.
Yeah,
like off top. Like
I think that's right, and I mean, that's where people are like, well, he was just defending himself, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, they were coming after him. I will agree with you on that, but and I don't know much, all the details on it, but where I said where I draw the line is, old boy, not 18. He crossed state lines with a weapon. So
with the intent, like,
exactly.
bro, a good lawyer could argue premeditated on this, dog.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, man. Like I feel like this has been spun. Like, dog, he went there. We've done it. We'd gone somewhere to fucking start shit before.
Yeah. Sure.
Like, and when we was his age.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you mean to tell me he wasn't going there to start shit? Like, dog, I've been 17. I was a guy that would go somewhere to start shit when I was 17. Like,
right, and I mean, he was running around talking about, like, oh, he's an EMT. Well, one, that's a lie. You're not an EMT at 17 years old. Like,
no,
I mean,
you probably took a goddamn class at the YMCA.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're putting yourself into, bro. And here's also my thing. I don't give a shit if I live in Broken Arrow now, so I'm like in Tulsa. If I hear about them burning down businesses in Tulsa, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm staying out of that.
Not your business. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just like, why would I go put my life in danger for fucking Apple when I can't even get them to give me a fucking warranty on my AirPods? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Like, no, I feel that, but I have an answer for this, but this I'll even acknowledge this is coming out of opinion, not out of fact. This is just. I mean, I think exactly what you're saying is right, unless you wanted to go shoot some black folks, bro.
All right.
Like to me, that's what.
And luckily he didn't, right? It was only white people he shot.
I believe, but I mean, I still believe, like I said, it'd be pretty goddamn easy to probably go through some social media posts and argue that premeditated intent. Like I said, I mean, I agree. I'm like, you're gonna catch me not disagreeing with you on this at all. Yeah, like he's young. He's going to get tried as a kid. That's another interesting thing of if you want to talk about, like, the racial, like, legal system. Like, if he was 17, bro, and he was black, like, now, once again, this is conjecture. This isn't fact. But Bro, he'd be getting charged as an adult. Like 17-year-old black kids get charged as an adult for shooting people every fucking day in this country.
Right.
Every day. Even 16-year-old, hell, even 15-year-olds
Yeah.
in certain places get charged as adult.
And see,
so he's gonna get charged as a kid. He's
is
probably
that for sure? I haven't heard anything about it.
No, it's not for sure, but you heard it here first. If it hasn't been released, like watch this. That's how it's gonna go down, bro. Like.
And I'm just curious. I don't know.
No. I feel you. I don't like to do this often, where I just spew shit without fact checking. But this ain't my first rodeo. I've seen this movie before.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Like he's gonna get tried as a 17-year-old. He'll probably get like involuntary manslaughter, and then he'll probably do like 6 months at like a rehab facility, and then get like 10 years probation. I'm just saying, bro. You heard it here first.
The best thing to maybe come out of this, which isn't much, obviously, people lost their lives. That was terrible. Is that this guy wanted to be a cop, and that's not going to happen now.
Yes.
You know? And so that's something that is probably
right. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Good thing about it. And like you're saying, him being tried as a child and black kids being tried as adults all the time. It's a blanket statement for me, in my opinion, because it really depends where you are. You never know what the judge you're going to get. Because there are people out there who I think, like, there are judges and whatnot who try to do what's right, and I don't think every judge is trying to.
It's case by case.
Yeah, case by case.
I think.
Go ahead.
It's case by case. But I just think the way that the power structure is set up for all these years, that like a lot of these people in place is like doing folks dirty. And not just white folks, mind you. Kamala Harris was trying to lock up innocent black kids too.
Right, yeah.
And so you're right. It's not necessarily just like racist. But that's why the term systemic racism gets used, because the system is so entrenched that even when a black person like Kamala Harris is in charge, the system still eats up these black kids.
Right.
And that's what people mean by systemic.
Yeah.
But no, I feel you. Blanket statements are dangerous, and I'm not a big fan of them myself, so I probably shouldn't have worded it that way. But man, I've seen a lot of shit happen firsthand.
Of course. I mean,
you know what I mean? Like,
and I'm not black, obviously, but. I got a rep among, the higher ups at school and whatnot because of the crowd I hung out with. So I mean,
we all know the crowd.
Yeah,
we all know what crowd that was.
Yeah, exactly. So I got thrown into a deal, if you will. I'm not, trying to say that, but I mean,
but that's kind of like a what do they call that? They call that, just like that's like an experience you've had of that kind of just. And that's what I'm talking about, bro, when I say that shit be subtle as hell, and it ain't usually just that outright. Like how subtle is that? Like there's plausible deniability all day long there. But if we're just keeping it $1.50, we both know what that was.
Right, yeah.
And that's what it's like being black in America. It's like there's not all these like outright examples, but it's that subtle shit. It's exactly what you just described. Like, and a lot of these people in power always maintain plausible deniability. Like, plausible deniability is a racist's best friend. It's so easy. Like, unless you're Donald Sterling and you get caught on tape using the N-word, I mean, you can mouthpiece your way around explaining damn near any racist behavior or quote or anything, or worst case scenario, you just say like, I'm so sorry that God changed my heart since then, and I've seen the light, and then you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just so easy unless you literally get caught on tape saying the N-word. Plausible deniability is always there, and that's what like frustrates black folks into jumping the gun, because we're just, you know what I'm saying? Used to just some slick shit happening.
Right? Yeah. No, I'm with you on that 100%.
Oh man, but yeah, let's talk a little. I know nowadays essentially race and politics seem to be one and the same, but let's kind of pivot to actual kind of blue and red politics. Like, I I'm kind of a believer at this point, and I think there was never a better example, prime and center, than the debate. That I mean, the two-party system may in fact be like the downfall of America. Like in 400 years, if America's collapsed and we're the next Rome, they may be pointing to that reason in the history books as like American
Right.
society, because they were so attached to this two-party system that was so
Yeah.
easily corrupted and manipulated.
Well, yeah, because we're supposed to be evolved. I mean, you're supposed to evolve, definitely. 100%. I don't think it's a bad system. I mean, it's worked. It's done its purpose. We kind of got to where we
Fair,
are.
fair,
It
fair.
definitely needs to be fixed for sure. Which you'll not catch me disagreeing with you on anything. Just like we talked about earlier. I mean, they're there to help us, and
yes.
they're not.
Now, and this kind of blends into another kind of question, because you said you kind of nowadays have been leaning more like libertarian.
Right.
And do you mean that in just like an idealistic way, or like would you possibly consider casting like a third party vote?
I would probably cast a third party vote at this time. I've looked into I can't think of her name right now.
Jorgensen, is it Jorgensen?
Yeah, and I'm not completely disgusted with her.
Right, the bar. That's where the bar is at, right?
Yeah, exactly, and that is where the bar's at. What I think happened, I was actually talking to Ian about this the other day, is how we ended up with Trump is the American people are so disgusted with politics and felt like nothing is working, and they've literally pushed us to the point where the American people voted for, to put Trump into office. Everybody was like, I'd want anything except a politician in there, which makes sense. I mean,
I think that's a large reason why of the appeal of the people that voted for him, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, you got people, like Biden, Camilla, McCain, all these people who are lifelong politicians.
They've been in there for 40 years.
Yeah, and it's and they do shit, and then want to. And everybody's like, all right, we got to try something different at this point. We just got to do something. And so
I think that's exactly what happened.
And I think if The Rock would have ran, he would have won. I would have voted for him.
I think that may happen. Like, I think we're to the level of like South Park meets reality.
Right.
Just like blending that, like, we're going to, I don't know. I think, so do you think it's like the libertarian? Because like I don't know, a libertarian, from my understanding of it, is kind of just like, as long as you ain't hurting nobody else, do your thing.
Right, exactly. And it's kind of like I was saying, how like in the Middle East, and I'm going to use this hunting thing again. We have a system that works. We don't need the big government coming in and laying down this bullshit for us. Essentially like. We need extra taxes from y'all. And like you said, you get taxed on just about damn near everything. And I mean, it's, we got a system that works. We're not hurting anybody. We're not doing nothing wild. So just kind of let us do our thing. But
I think I'm going to take this a little deeper here, play armchair psychologist. Like, I think to have faith in that, you have to have faith in humanity. Like, you really think people are good by and far.
Yeah, no, I mean that's kind of
that
kind
of goes hand in hand.
I mean, and I think that it's hard to not. I mean, for me personally, I mean, it's hard to just turn your back on society. For me personally, I mean, it's just like inherently, I think people want to be more good than bad, and you're always going to have your bad apples, no matter what, no matter if it's in the United States, no matter if it's Canada, Mexico.
Yeah,
we're in the entire world. You're going to have bad apples. But I think inherently people want to be good, and so I think that's where my where my mindset is.
I think, I don't know. I once again, I take it a little nuanced. Like I think the statement that people want to be good, I think that's a factual statement.
Mm-hmm.
I think, is everyone willing to inconvenience themselves enough to do what it takes to actually be good.
Right.
To me, it's like the old saying, like hope in one hand and shit in the other, and see which one fills up first. It's like, to me, even if you're right and everybody wants to do good, if everybody is either too lazy or too stupid or too stubborn to actually follow through and actually do what's good, it's kind of all for naught. And like I said, I'm kind of by nature more like slightly more pessimistic. So like maybe that's what's going on there. But it's like, to me, it's like kind of put your money where your mouth is. Like, I don't give a shit who wants what. It's like who does what. Like, I don't know.
Exactly.
But,
and I try to lead by example. I mean,
the world needs people like both of us. If the world had everybody thought like that, it would be depressing as fuck. And if everybody thought like you, we'd all just be blowing smoke up each other's ass.
Exactly.
You know, and so it's balance.
And I've been in situations where, somebody said some racist shit, and I'm like, dude, that, and is all, is either just me and that person or just white people around. I'm like, that's not, I'm not being a part of that. That's not cool. I'm not going to do that here. So like,
oh man, that makes the heart feel good.
But
man.
I'm just saying, and that's what I'm saying. That's where, so I know that I'm trying to do the right thing. So I know I can't be the only person out there.
The only one.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a very good point. Yeah, I love that, man.
And if you sit there and tell people, even if it's just like a little, even if it's just like a little bullshit joke or something like that, it's not funny and it's offensive to people. And, my brothers are black, you, Tez, Rico, Rodney, Donovan, those are all my brothers.
Yeah.
Shit, we took Tez in, That's not, it's factual for us, or for me, anyways. Sure. It's a real deal. So
and it's funny that you say that, man, because I shit you not, bro. Like right after George Floyd died, and like it was right after the Ahmaud Arbery and all that, and like my phone was ringing like a goddamn white guilt hotline. I shit you not, bro. Every white person in Norman called me and was just like, Dom, what should I do? Like, I don't want to be a bad white person. I shit you not, bro. Like, I probably got like 20 phone calls or messages like along those lines. Like people, and it was cool. Like I'm kind of cracking jokes about it, but like it's kind of like people legit had their heart in the right place, but they just kind of didn't know what to do or how to go about it.
Yeah.
And so, like, I would always tell them exactly damn near that same scenario you just told me. I was like, honestly, like, and people may disagree, but it's like, honestly, we don't need you marching with a sign. What we need you is and when you're in a car full of only white people or drinking with your old white buddies and you hear a racist joke to cut that shit out. Or, you know what I'm saying? If one of these days.
Well, and that goes back to the echo chamber, like you're saying. Yeah, you could be marching in the street with, Black Lives Matter and whatnot, but that's not, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying, like, you're just surrounded by other people. Right, yeah. You're just surrounded by other people who are in the same situation. You got to, when it counts, you got to be able to stand up and be like, this is wrong.
And I was even telling people, like, everybody, and once again, everybody wanted like a microwave answer, like something they could just go do or something they could just go post. Like they
comment.
I don't even. No, I'm not gonna touch on it. But like what I'm getting at, I was making a bigger point is that whenever people were asking me what they could do, everybody wanted a little zoomed in micro answer.
Kind of like what we were talking about earlier.
I kept giving everybody big picture macro answer, like what you do is how you live your life. It's who you are. It's not what you do. It's who you are. Like don't marry a racist man. Like a lot of the people calling me were females. Like, don't have kids with a racist man that's going to teach your kids racist shit. Don't, if you have a daughter, if you're white and you have a daughter and she brings home a black boy in high school, don't be a fucking asshole about it. You know what I'm saying? Like to me, everybody wants like these like easy, like step 1, step 2, step 3 on how to not be a racist, like checklist. And I just was like, dude, it's how you live your life. It's who you marry. It's how you raise your children.
It's for me personally, it's just like something, like, that's not right. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've got to know to an extent outside of a few certain things, like we said, that we talked about, like, you know, being able to correct somebody without biting their head off or calling them a racist just because they don't know, but just being able to know what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah,
and most people do know that.
But like knowing on it and acting on it, I feel like that's where it needs to be like not lumped together as one step. Like those are two separate steps. Because like I mean, we've all, right? How many times have you been in a room full of people and your gut instinct is probably telling you, like, yeah, this is probably not the move. Like, something ain't right here.
Right.
But, you
Yeah.
know, you're young and you just go along with it and everybody else is doing it and whatever the fuck. You know, we've all been there. I've been there. But you can apply that to, like, racism, too. Like, I feel like a lot of people maybe hear something, see something, and they know it's wrong. But it's like, do
Right.
they speak up? Did they, you know, so it's almost like, you know, being complicit, you know, or just like allowing it to happen.
Right.
It's like, I know you've seen the movie Boondock Saints. I think I use this on
Yeah.
every episode of the podcast. But whenever the priest is like, there's a new kind of evil, the indifference of good men.
Right.
That's one of my favorite lines in every movie ever. And it applies to like this topic so goddamn much. Like I just feel like the people that like just they know better, but it's like if you know better, do better. But I don't feel like
Right.
people
And
make
and it
that leap from
and it
knowing
can
better to
be
doing better.
kind of hard. You know, if you are in a group full of people and, you know, something racist is said or whatever, to like stand up in front of 15,
It's
20
hard.
people and be
It's
like,
hard.
you know, and you can either do one or two things. You can either say something, you know, or if you feel like you're in danger, maybe not say something, you know, if
That's
you're
a
gonna,
real factor.
but
That's a real factor.
you know, definitely go home and be like, you know, I'm not going to put myself in that situation again. Like, you know,
Yeah.
that's, you know, those are some things I think you can do personally. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
comfortable enough to be like, hey, we're not going to do this. We're not going to be about this. You know, that's one thing. And
But that's not in everybody's blood. Like that's
no,
not in
and it's
everybody's
not, and it's
heritage.
hard to do. It's hard to go against the
Yeah,
current
it
on
is.
situations like that. And
Yeah.
I'll just say that, you know, for being a white person, I mean, like, it can be hard
Yeah.
to go against the grain, you know, but
Totally.
you got to do what's right. I mean, that's what my grandma's always told me. She goes, always do what's right. She tells me that almost every day, and that's kind of
Yeah.
just what. I mean, it's simple. I mean, there's simple things, you know. Just
It's simple, man. Yeah, people try to complicate it. I think another one word we haven't mentioned yet on the podcast that I think probably will go further to bridging this gap than any other single word, and that word is empathy.
mm-hmm.
Like being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, and
Right.
like a problem that doesn't affect you at all whatsoever, but you still care about it
Yeah.
because it affects somebody else out there.
Yeah. Exactly.
And there's not a lot of that. We're, myself included, like we're a very selfish society. We want to
Right.
get ours. We want what's best for us. We're worried about our own problems. We've all said that, right? Like I got enough of my own problems. I ain't worried
Yeah.
about your problem.
Yeah.
We've all said that, like on smaller issues, but we've
Right.
all said that phrase. But I feel like that same kind of logic gets applied on like the bigger picture
Yeah.
scale. And there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, you know, that may be going on out there somewhere, but you know, I don't see it and it doesn't really affect me. And you know, like
Yeah.
how much am I supposed to give a shit about this? Like, you
Right.
know what I'm saying? And like,
And
and that's not
I'd
an
like to
easy
say,
answer.
you know, for people, I mean, it's not like me or you are telling people you got to go out and find your local racist and call them out
Yeah,
and do this. You know, it's do your part. I mean, it's,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
do your part every day. If the situation arises, address it, try to fix it. You know, maybe, you know, and some people, I don't want to give too much leeway here on this, but I mean, some people were brought up like that. You know, some people are brought up by racist people. And I think it's important to give them the opportunity to turn that around,
yeah,
because it's what you're brought up in. You don't know any better, and that's unfortunate for that person. And if we don't, you know, like just like we were saying earlier, I mean, if somebody admits they're wrong and you know we can't bring them into the fold, they're not going to change. They're going to retreat back to what they know.
Yeah,
so
that's fair. That's true.
I think that's an important thing to take away from this, is to be able to forgive and be able to be understanding, for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like, just exactly. You can't complain about somebody else's grass if your shit ain't watered. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
we all need to worry about living our lives the right way and leading by example. But yeah, man, I think we'll go ahead and end on that positive note, brother. I really enjoyed this. It turned out to be exactly what I wanted it to be. And thank you so much for your time, man. This is episode 18 of Dreadful Talk. Yes, thank you so much, man. And
appreciate you having me,
we'll
man.
have to do it again one of these days, man. You be safe out there.
Anytime, brother.